Hello again and welcome to our Thursday Thoughts video where we share our last thoughts about the gospel of the week past and look forward to the one to come. I'm Pastor Dave Deckard and we are glad to have you here. Last Sunday we talked about the story of John the Baptist who came out of the wilderness to prepare the way for the coming of Jesus by sharing the message of the Lord. And you know, it's always a tricky thing when you talk about people being witnesses or messengers of God. Because in one sense, you really want to separate the message from the messenger. And you need to do that because none of us are perfect. As soon as we say, I am the message, we expose ourselves, our thoughts, our biases, our lives to scrutiny that they cannot withstand. None of us is central, none of us is the message. But at the same time, we cannot say, well, I'm not the message either. It's completely separate from me and my life. I'm just bringing it to you like I would bring a sack lunch or something. Because you know what? The message isn't an abstract. If our lives don't live and breathe God's love, then God's love is not shown in the same way. You don't turn to a spouse or a child or whomever you care about and say, I'm going to talk to you about love. You tell them about love by showing them love. And the closer your life comes to that message, the more truly and the better the message is shared. So we're kind of stuck in the middle ground where we can't say the message is us, but we can't say the message is not us either. Instead, we have to wrestle with each other about the whys and the hows and the with whom and when and what we speak and share. And we're never free to remain completely silent and refuse to share the message, but we're also never free to just share it without reflecting on how we're doing it and how we might do it better for the sake of people around us who are also wrapped up in this message and are very different from us. Now, I don't have the complete answers for this. If I did, we wouldn't even need this message at all. But I can tell you one thing that I wish we would all do. Actually, I'll give you two. Number one, realize that sharing God's message is as much about what happens with your ears as what happens with your voice. Too many of us presume we already know what it is, walk into any room, anywhere, just like a big old billboard saying, call 1-800-ME for truth, without asking who's in that room, what that language might mean to them, what experiences they have, and 100 other things we should be aware of before we know how to translate that message. In essence, we walk in that room saying, the message is me and none of the rest of you matter, which is not the message at all. If we would spend twice as much time listening for God as we do speaking about God, I think most of us who have that impulse to share the message would do it better. The other thing we have to do is we have to stop canonizing or sanctifying the people who do it. And we do this all the time. Oh, Pastor, you must be an amazing person. No, I'm not an amazing person. I'm just like you with a slightly different call. I don't do this because I'm better than you. I do this because I don't see any other way of doing this and still living out my purpose. And whatever your purpose is, that will be true for you too. We tend to lift up preachers in our society that are on TV that are horrible examples, but they speak pretty good and they look pretty good, and so we say, that must be the guy. We do the same with biblical figures too. We look at a person like John the Baptist and we say, that's a messenger, or Abraham was a messenger, or whoever it was, and we lift them up on statues and we say, oh, that guy is the one who should have been doing it. Parentheses, now I don't have to because I'm not him. Instead, we need to realize that all the figures we read about were pretty much people just like us. The only thing that distinguished them was at the end, their lives stood for something more than just themselves. And they were remembered for that something more, not because they were inherently greater. And that is something we all can aspire to, even if we don't see ourselves as particularly good speakers, or particularly godly, or particularly saints like we find in the Bible. We will see you again next week when we will talk about the Gospel of John, chapter 1. We look forward to seeing you this Sunday.